Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Breckland Planning. We obviously move on now to our deferred application, which was item 9A, 3PL 2022-0439, and this is a full application at Shropham. I already have sitting here the chairman of Shropham Parish Councillor, Chairman David Napier. I've got Mr. Philip Cohen, who is the agent. I know he looks familiar. And Mr. and Mrs. Morford, who are the applicants. Over to you then, please, Matthew.
All right, good morning, councillors. So this is a deferred application. This was originally heard in January 2021, and this is for a site in the parish of Shropham. 22. Oh yeah, 2023. Yeah, okay. Yeah, just going back in time. Okay, so restarting. So this is a deferred application from January 2023, and you voted to undertake a site visit, which took place in February. And then this is in the parish of Shropham, and this is for Settle on Larling Road. And then the description is to provide a residential accommodation for a site manager and various other infrastructure, including driveway, an office, guest parking, laundry facility, garage, stores essentials for management, maintenance, security, and general upkeep of the holiday accommodation located on site at Settle. Okay, so as you can see, this is the location plan. So they'll be utilising the existing access, and this is where the proposed dwelling is situated, and then the blue represents the wider site ownership and where the holiday accommodation for Settle is, and it's situated down this track here and along here. And then this is just the site in its context. So this is the access is situated from here. Okay, so here is the proposed site plan. So this is what we're going to be assessing. As you can see, there are a number of trees around the proposed development. So from the previous committee, there was a reason for refusal on insufficient arboricultural information. I can confirm that the applicant and the agent submitted since that planning committee additional information relating to arboricultural matters. The tree officer was consulted and they raised no objection to it, subject to a condition. So if the application were to be approved, we would impose a condition. And therefore that reason for refusal previously no longer stands. Okay, so here we've got the proposed elevations. And then here are the proposed floor plans. So starting off on the ground floor. So as you can see, these are going to, so you've got a laundry facility, you've got a store and office here and a public entrance. These rooms within the building are going to be for the use of the wider site itself. And then, as you can see, you've got private accommodation here. And then on the first floor, you've also got private accommodation with a balcony and a balcony situated here. So here are just some site photos. So this is where the proposed building is going to be situated. I can confirm that the animals will be relocated, but they will remain on site. And then this is looking at it from its wider context. And then this is just looking, this is towards as you come to arrive. And then this is just another picture here. This is the track that leads towards the holiday accommodation. And then this is a log cabin. So this is an example of the type of holiday accommodation that they provide. And then you've got a trailer accommodation here as well. That is also situated on the site. Trailer, yeah. Sorry. Carriage, trailer, yeah. Sorry. So I can confirm that the application has still been recommended for refusal. It is considered that the so we have assessed the policy, the proposed development under policy HAL 13 of the local plan, which is for rural workers dwelling. We do consider that the proposed development still does not comply with all of the criteria for HAL 13. And these are points 1, 3, 5, and 9. Further details are contained within the officer report. I can also confirm that viability has been received and a summary has been included in the officer report. So you can refer to that. As last time, there was no information relating to viability. So if you wish to have a look at that, there's a summary within the report itself. So as it's considered that there is insufficient justification for the need for the rural workers dwelling on the site itself, it is therefore considered non-compliant with HAL 13, and therefore the application has been recommended for refusal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got the Chairman of Shropton Parish Council, David Napier, please, sir. And you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Chairman. Thank you. In April 22, the Parish Council paid a site visit to Settle and were very happy with what they saw, except they didn't think it was necessary to put a new road out onto the B1111. And this was agreed. When it came to the January meeting this year, being 9 months on, I rang round every single member of the Parish Council and said, look, we put in no objections. Are you happy with this? And frankly, we didn't put anything like strong enough. We all said we are particularly happy with this. And it's a very good idea. Looking through the report to your committee, everything seems fine on impact and amenity, highways, ecological considerations, trees and landscape. And there is, as said by the case officer, 4 points under HAL 13, which apparently do not comply with the policy. And to be blunt, I struggle with these because to say that it is not considered that sufficient information and limited justification has been made, I'm surprised at that. On point 3, given the proximity of the applicant's existing residential is 4 miles away, that he could run it from there. Come on to the point, I don't think that's right. And it says it is considered that the proposed dwelling is larger than that necessarily required to meet the functional needs. And yet under design and appearance, under 2.3, it says the proposed scale, height and mass of the dwelling is considered acceptable given the character of the wider site log cabins and the size of the application. But then it goes on to say it still falls of HAL 13. And the final point, point 9, is that no consideration has been given to a temporary dwelling. I think it's very important to remember here that at the January meeting, Councillor Wilkinson asked the applicant, would he be living in this? And was given the answer, yes. Now, in my own opinion, and I have not run around the other Western Parish Council with this, I think this is a very fair and a very good application, because it's no good just putting down log cabins or lakeside or carriages or any form of glamping unless you can provide a proper service. And that is essential in order to grow the business and get a good reputation. And things can happen very quickly when they go wrong, and they've got to be dealt with immediately. Otherwise things won't work and people in bad news travels. And yes, the applicant lives 4 miles away, but he's been up and down, but he should not be tied to that. He's got other interests. And I think it is very, very important that this goes through, and the Parish Council is very strongly in favour of it. The committee report says that there are other sites that are larger and do not have a similar accommodation. Well, fine, but surely there's no matrix for how a site should operate. It is up to the applicant to put this in, and if the applicant considers that it's right to do, he should be allowed to do it. And he has supplied not only agricultural, that was not his fault that it wasn't the previous thing, and also the viability. And I find it frankly surprising that it's not being allowed on these grounds of HAL 13. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I've got Mr. Philip Cowan, please, who's the agent. 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, and members. The applicant is here with us today, but really particularly to answer any detailed questions about the management and running of the business that you may have as a result of your site visit. As the Chairman of the Parish Council has pointed out, there are 4 reasons why officers believe this doesn't comply with policy HAL 13. And to be frank, policy HAL 13 doesn't really fit this particular development either, because HAL 13 was always anticipated when these policies were written to relate to specifically agricultural diversification and businesses. This isn't, never has been, an agricultural business. This is a holiday accommodation for which you, the committee, have already granted consent, some of which has not been built out as yet, as you will have seen during your visit. I think it's the last time we met, and before we had the site visit, there was concern about the viability, and that really goes to the heart of item 9. I'm surprised to read what I read in the report, having submitted financial information. This business is 3 years old. As you will see from the papers before you, the gross margin is increased by 112,000 in the current year. These are current accounts. And the net margins have changed upwards by £53,000. The gross turnover in the current year is about 190,000. But the whole prospect is frustrated in its development and growth because there is no presence on site. And you will recall that the applicant already has consent for a further 2 cabins. And you saw one when you did your visit, and that was shown on the screen. And an additional carriage. Again, you saw that carriage under construction when you were on your visit. So when we consider the full potential for development of this site, it is significantly larger than that which exists at the moment. And that would take the overall turnover to somewhere between £300,000 and £400,000 per annum. This is not a business which is failing. This is a business which is growing in a market which is growing in a location of the country which is highly desirable. It supports not just the business itself, but supports local suppliers and industry within the area, and has the potential to do more. But it can't do more because the frustration is that in order to do more, one has to be on site to manage the operation. You saw the laundry, for example, when you did your visit. The proposal before us today is not just for residential accommodation. It does comprise a commercial laundry. It provides better office and administrative facilities. It provides a point of access. It provides for a boot room for those people who are working on the site that need to go into the shop and manage the shop. Otherwise, they come in and they need to be clean and tidy. So it's much, much more than just some residential accommodation. Looking at accommodation locally, there is no accommodation locally. This is a large site in the countryside. And in order to manage it and take visitors when they arrive in the dark, perhaps, on foot, as you heard, a lot of visitors do, they get dropped off by taxi. They need to know where they're going. It's no good having someone living a mile or 2 away and just turning up when someone gives them a phone call. They need to be on site all the time, and that's one of the reasons for this. So I would tend to disagree with the officer's recommendations that items 1, 3, 5, and 9 are not met. The building is functional. It's not just a residential building. It provides all the additional functionality that's required. And I think I've probably said enough at this moment in time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I've got a letter from the neighbouring ward rep, Councillor Sarah Suggett. Rebecca, you'd like to read that out, please?
So Councillor Suggett says, I would like to support this application, and I'm disappointed that despite a site visit and additional information being received, that this is still recommended for refusal. I'm pleased to see the previous issues around the trees have been resolved. However, I think there are still some elements of the business that are misunderstood. For example, the turnaround of guests and the restraints felt due to not being able to implement the planning approval to extend the business, that is. I believe that the business does support policy HAL 13 and would urge the committee to approve this application this morning. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Before I put it to members' questions, could I just ask for clarification to all members with regards to site visits and voting process, please? Rebecca.
Yes, of course. So basically, if you voted for a site visit in January, if you voted to go on a site visit, if you felt that you needed that additional information to determine this application, and you were unable to attend that site visit for whatever reason, then you should not vote on this planning application because you felt that that information was necessary to determine the application. If you did not vote for a site visit at the application planning committee on January, then you alternatively, hopefully, felt that you had sufficient information in front of you, and therefore you can participate in the vote today if you still remain to feel that without the site visit, you have sufficient information to determine the application. If you didn't attend the committee in January and therefore you didn't vote either way, again, it is within your remit, members, to decide whether you've got sufficient information without the site visit to vote on this application, but it is within your remit to do so.
There we go. I'm sure you all fall into one of those categories. Okay, we're going to start with Councillor Attawell, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm grateful for the opportunity to visit the site, because I think until you see the site, you didn't really get an full understanding of the restrictions there. I was particularly struck by the laundry and the shop area. I mean, the laundry, there was 2 ladies working in there on the day. How they work around each other in there was marvellous, really, considering the constraints on the space. In terms of building a dwelling on this site, I mean, I think there's something else that needs to be taken into account here. It's the sustainable nature of the actual dwelling, and the fact that it's laudable that that's going to be built predominantly from reclaimed materials. So I think it's going to blend into the site very well. I personally think this is a local business. I think we should support that local business. And I, for one, I'm very supportive of it, particularly because of that environmental, they've taken great pains for the environment and the sustainable nature of the construction. So, I think the site visit was a very good idea, and that's definitely made my mind up. Thank you.
Councillor Kibble-Morris, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think Mr. Cowan has hit the nail on the head when he said that this is not HOU 13, because originally HO 13 was agricultural workers' dwellings. I put the analogy: if you went to a bed and breakfast and you wanted something in the middle of the night, and you wouldn't expect the host to come from 2 or 3 miles away. And I think the case here is that would be the case if this dwelling was not built. I did go on the site visit, and I'm very impressed with what's going on there, and what Councillor Attawell said about the reclaimed material for the dwelling, I think is laudable. I will be voting in favour of this. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Gilbert, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a question about the arboreal report. You said you'd received an updated arboreal report. Condition will be imposed. Can we have some idea what this condition is? Because if we're sitting here voting on something which includes a condition, I think we ought to know, maybe not the exact wording, but the outline of what this condition will be. Thank you.
Matt will answer that question in a minute, but just to be really clear, you're voting on the recommendation for refusal. You are not voting on a recommendation for approval with conditions. So what Matt actually said was, in the event that we were approving this application, then that the matter of arboricultural, which was outstanding at the previous committee, could be dealt with by condition. You're actually voting on a recommendation for refusal, but obviously we can report to you what that condition wording might be.
Councillor Gilbert.
I can come back on that. The reason for the arboreal report, if that could be material into which way people vote. Because if this arboreal report said we can fell all these trees around here, that's fine to accommodate it, some people might say, oh no. On the other hand, if the arboreal report doesn't interfere with what is proposed, then people might say, well, that's fair enough. So I think on these sort of things, we need to have some idea before we can vote either way.
Rebecca.
Not just on this one.
I just misinterpreted your question there, I think, Councillor Gilbert, so apologise for that. I think what you're actually asking us is, what are the arboricultural impacts from this development in the event we were to approve planning permission? And Mr. Cowan, we on site, we were told that only 1 tree was being removed. as a result of the planning application. And as a result of that arboricultural report, the tree officer has no objections to the application on the basis of the removal of one tree only.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Kybird, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a rural workers dwelling, but it's much more than a caretaker's house. It's multifunctional. I don't regard 3 bedrooms as excessive in size for a rural worker. These are people who want to make a success of their lives, and the accommodation provided includes a shop, a laundry, secure storage, and I see no reason to vote against this because it supports a viable tourist industry. Thank you.
Councillor Dale, please. Oh, okay. You had your hand up, that was all. Okay, Councillor Dale can't vote. Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to say I didn't vote for a site visit, so I didn't attend a site visit. I looked at all the information I had in front of me and looked at went with the planning policies. Since then, I've heard obviously comments from Mr. Cowan, and the whole building is going to, as I understand, going to be a reception, laundry, tea room, possibly shop. That, in my mind, that makes it a professional business. It helps then you to expand, and I'm all for supporting businesses in Breckland. I just thought I'd get that point out there, that originally it was wishy-washy, but since then I've heard all these reports, and you know, like I said, I like to support Breckland businesses.
Councillor Plummer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one item has been missed. I'm not sure if I didn't read it, perhaps, is security. Because in the rural community, which I work, security is becoming the most vital thing. And I've seen all what's there because I had the site visit, and I could realise how vulnerable that place could become for people who shouldn't be on there. So for any reason at all, and I think I would go for that, is security is one of the top things. I wouldn't want to run a business where one morning I could come in there and somebody been in that shop and smashed it all up and what have you. So if you really want my opinion, I'm in favour of this just for the security woes, as well as people need to live on the place they work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from members? You're all satisfied? Terrific. Thank you. So with regards to this item for Shropham, this is deferred item 9A, a 3PL 2022-0439, and this is a full application. Your officer's recommendation is one of refusal. Go show of hands for refusal, please. That's a big fat 0. And for those who wish to vote for an approval, could I have a show of hands, please? 8, and the abstentions with regards to site visiting. Yours was site visit as well, wasn't it, Councillor Clark? Yeah, okay. So 2 abstentions. Could I have your reasons from the floor why you would agree to this item against the officer's recommendation? Councillor Mark Kittle-Morris, please.
This dwelling is essential, a functional dwelling for the essential running of a rural business.
Yeah. And Councillor Wilson as a seconder.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I'd just like to say that that the application has demonstrated that the dwelling in this location will not be contrary to PAL 13.
Councillor Attwell.
I think we need to make mention in there of the construction of this dwelling and the sustainable nature of the construction of using the reclaimed materials. I think is a significant factor in approving this application. If somebody was going to build something, you know, out of standard brick and concrete, we probably take a dim view of it. But I think in view of the fact of the design and the material, I think that is a significant material consideration for us.
Have you ever tried to drive a car to the seaside and take your children and they're being very naughty in the back seat? Yes, you please can. And then you can have an ice cream.
So what I'm hearing, members, and please do shout if I'm not hearing this, but what I heard from members today was that you feel that the proposal in itself is in general compliance with policy HAL 13 of the local plan. However, you have also taken into consideration other material considerations in terms of the sustainability of the building, the build techniques, and the fact it is a self-build dwelling in the open countryside in reaching your determination on the application. Please do shout if that's not a fair summary.
Yes, and security issues as well. So from the floor, please, could I ask just a show of vote, please? Raise your hands for the fact that you wish to approve this application. Show of hands, please. 8, and those against, and abstentions, 2. Okay, thank you. This item is approved. Could I just add to that that I've been here far too long. In my early days, before we had a cabinet system, we had committee system, and one of those committees was recreation and tourism. And this is the type of thing which would fall into that and then straddles onto its planning permission, through planning. This is always an ideal situation to see. And also the site visit was, and I'm sure members will agree, that was probably one of the big deciding factors, that it's definitely one we needed to see and touch and smell and everything else. So, and I'd like to thank the applicant for allowing us to visit on the day. So thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, we delegate conditions. Okay, members, thank you. Okay, moving swiftly on to Mattershall. Yes, Mattershall, number 8. 10F. Yes, Councillor Plummer first before I tell them what it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For transparency and clarity, I will leave the room, so I won't debate this at all. Okay.
And you're not wishing to speak from the
No,
other side?
no.
I can leave the room. Okay, fine. You do realise the sandwiches are here, I suppose, by doing that. There is a benefit. All right. He can't eat them all, I'm sure. He's not Councillor Clark. So item 10F. 3PL 2022-1415 HOU at Mattershall. I've got Suzanne Ascare, who's an objector, and that's it, because I did have Councillor Plummer. And Lisa's doing the presentation. Thank you very much, madam, if you'd like to take a seat. Thank you. So Lisa's in the chair.
Thank you, Chairman. The application proposes the conversion of a single-storey dwelling to a chalet bungalow to include dormers to the front and rear, and extension also to the front and rear. This is the location plan, which shows the dwelling set back further from the majority of the others in Dereham Road. And this is the site plan. So the application is the resubmission of a previously refused scheme which came to committee for consideration in September 22. And the revised proposal will result in a 4-bedroom property, 3 at first floor and 1 at ground floor, and will retain the height of the existing dwelling. So this is just the site in the wider context. Dereham Road to the south. These are the proposed elevations, so the front and side, western side. So this, just for consideration, this was the previously refused scheme site plan, for which here with the garage to the front as well, and the previously refused extension elevation, sorry. So these are the front and side, the western side, these were the rear and eastern side. So just in comparison, this is what's now proposed. And just some photographs there to show the existing dwelling in between existing development either side. and the rear of the existing property. So there's been no statutory consultee objections to the current proposal, but representations have been received, 2 in support. However, objections have been raised in relation to that the parish council have raised queries about whether the design complies with policy. There's been concern about the side elevations being brought closer to the neighbouring dwellings. There's been concern over loss of light, overshadowing, the materials proposed being out of keeping with the area, and overdevelopment of the site as well. Section 2 and 3 of my officer report goes into detail regarding design, character and amenity impact. However, on assessing the proposal against what could be carried out under permitted development rights, the proposal is now considered acceptable. The continuation of the existing ridge height alongside the sloping roof of the rear extension away from neighbouring boundaries and dwellings is considered to reduce any impact in terms of light loss and overshadowing, and the front extension element has now been reduced as a result of negotiations and is cited as sufficient distance from the neighbouring properties and boundaries to reduce any adverse impact. The roof lights facing number 91A have been considered, but are considered to provide oblique views across the garden, and they're also sited at heights sufficient to reduce overlooking to a significant degree. The dormer window again has been carefully considered to the rear. However, a dormer window could be added without the need for permission under provided certain permitted development tolerances are met. So on balance, the proposed scheme now is considered acceptable in design and amenity terms, is considered to better relate the dwelling to the existing street scene, and as such, it's recommended for approval.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It's Suzanne Asker, please. You have 3 minutes, madam, if that's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Whilst this application is an improvement on the last one, it still fails to address key concerns that contributed to the refusal of the previous application, namely loss of sunlight, loss of privacy, overshadowing and poor design. The planning officer in her report incorrectly states that 91A is a 2-storey house. It is a 1.5-storey house. And the case officer also states that Howe 11 is not relevant as it refers to rural buildings. If this is the case, then why did the LPA refuse planning permission for a bungalow extension in Mattershall, citing Howe 11 as a reason for refusal? The building is no different from 93 Dearham Road. The planning officer is wrong to dismiss this. The case officer states that 4 representations were received, 2 in support and 1 objecting. This is wrong, as 2 objected. Neither of the 2 supporters are impacted by this proposed development. One of them lives nowhere near 93 Dearham Road. The views that should matter are from those who are impacted most, those at 91A and 95 Dearham Road, who both objected to this application. We have 3 main concerns. First is the loss of sunlight. Sunlight to our south-facing window is limited. Our north-facing patio doors receive no sunlight. Our west-facing window is our main source of sunlight into our living room. This window ceases to receive sunlight when the sun is in line with 93's current ridge, which is some 3.5 metres further away than proposed. Putting a 5.9 metre wall within 2.2 metres from this window will completely prevent sunlight access. It is a cold room, and the absence of sunlight would mean the need for us to heat the room all year round. Not doing so would be medically detrimental to both my husband and I. Ladies and gentlemen, our second concern is the rear extension, which would be brought much closer. Currently, it is single-storey with flat roof. The application proposes to increase the wall height and add a roof. The combined effect is an extension that would overlook and overshadow our private amenity space. Our third concern is the forward projection, which with its increased wall height combined with choice of materials would not be in keeping with neighbouring properties or the street scene. These concerns are also shared by Mr. and Mrs. Tuck at 95 Dearham Road, and the impact on both families' daily lives and the ability to continue to enjoy living at our homes would be detrimental. This is a sizable plot that could very easily accommodate a well-proportioned family home without the need to bring the property closer to us. The fact that it does not is a clear illustration of poor design and poor use of space, as well as a lack of consideration for neighbours. Furthermore, the choice of materials shows a lack of respect and insensitivity for the street scene and surrounding area. To conclude, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, The negative implication the proposed development would have on us is unquestionable. Your decision today would really be the difference between being able to continue enjoying living in our home or being forced to move. It is really that profound for us, and I therefore hope that you will refuse this application.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's open to questions from members. Councillor Clark, please. Councillor Attwell afterwards.
Thank you, Chairman. A question for our officer. The objectors mentioned potential either loss of light, amenity and sunlight. Whilst they might not have required to provide it, has there been any sort of shadow projection provided by the applicant, please? Thank you.
There hasn't been a shadow projection, but purely because it wasn't considered necessary in this instance, given what could be done under permitted development rights.
Councillor Attwell.
Could I have some clarification on HOU 11, please? Because I'm looking at that. I personally don't think that this proposed dwelling meets the criteria in policy HOU 11. So I'd like some clarity on that.
So how 11 relates to dwellings in rural areas, this is inside the Mattershall settlement boundary. Therefore, how 11 doesn't apply because it's not a rural area as defined by the local plan.
Okay, Councillor Wilkinson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could I have the street scene up with the photograph with the two properties and the bungalow, please? Just to clarify where this lady lives and
Do you live at 91A or 91A? Are you the cream one with the 1.5 story one? Oh, that's gone.
And also, Lisa, would this height, I did see your plans, but would the height of the extension be the same as the 2-story one? And how much higher will it? Because that looks higher than that lady's house anyway, doesn't it? I don't know. Is that going to be the height of hers or that one there? Oh, sorry.
The existing ridge height of the existing dwelling will be retained. So the additional roof height is provided by way of the dormer windows.
Okay, any other further questions at all? Councillor Attwell?
Just clarify that for me again regarding the roof height. So with the ridge height of this proposal is going to be exactly the same as the ridge height on the existing bungalow. Right.
Can we just put the plan so we can get that impression in our minds? Thank you.
Members, what I'm trying to do is we've noticed during the PowerPoint that you only saw a front elevation of one of the side elevations. You didn't see the rear elevation and the other side elevation that the lady specifically referred to. So what we've just done is added this plan so we can show you those elevations. So we'll do that and then we'll do what Councillor Wilkinson asked about showing you the location plan again. So this is the proposed rear extension, rear elevation and the eastern side.
Councillor Kittle Morris.
Can I just ask whether that bit to the left on that drawing, which is shaded red, is that the extension?
That's the front extension element.
Okay,
So this is what the lady can see from her. Yes.
yeah, this is what would be seen from 91A, would be this side here. Your front elevation again, please.
Yep.
There we are, front elevation.
Councillor Wood, Chairman, you wanted to see the location plan again, didn't you?
No, I didn't ask for location. Are members happy anymore while we're still at the screen on? Sorry. Oh. Okay.
Is this going to be 2 floors in there, or is that just like a vaulted?
That's 2 floors by dormer windows, so it's actually 1.5 story again, that type of feature.
On an existing bungalow?
Yes. And the roof height is the same. Okay, but it's been made into a cross section. If we look down on the, can we just put the floor plan on so we can see there's extension to the front, extension to the back. There, look. So the middle bit there is existing bungalow. So we've got a bit coming out the front and the bit going out the back. Okay. Do you understand, everybody? Everyone happy? Loads of nodding heads. Some people chewing their beards. Not you, Vera. Okay, terrific. Okay, thanks so much. Any further questions at all? If not, we'll Councillor Mark Morris.
Thank you, Chairman. What's the boundary treatment between the 2 properties, 91A and 93, please?
Existing fencing will remain. There's no proposed new. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know how tall the boundary treatment is. I can have a look at the rear photograph.
I'm only trying to establish how much light is precluded from 91A with the existing boundary treatment and how much it would be adversely affected by the new extension going backwards.
How high is your fence?
The fence is staggered going towards the front. The kitchen window is quite a low fence to allow the sunlight in. When it reaches the side, it's just below 6 foot, the recommended. There is an area in front of the window that is at the recommended or agreed level, and then the rest of it is a fairly high fence.
Is it your fence or is it?
It's the applicant's fence.
Applicant's fence. Yeah. Yeah. Within PD?
Yeah.
Yeah. So permitted development rights would allow a larger or taller fence anyway, up to 2 meters. Oh, okay. Yep. We've not seen that, so I'm just assuming. Okay. I think that's been answered. Are we okay there? Thank you. You have a knitting, mother's knitting circle. Okay, no further questions from members? No, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to take the vote on this item. So with regards to Mattershall application 3PL 2022-1415 HOU, your officer's recommendation on this one is one of approval. Could I have a show of hands, please? Eight, and those against, one. Okay, this item is approved. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, members, we're moving on to item 11 on your agenda, which is applications determined by the Deputy Chief Executive. Those are there for your information. And item 12 is, for your information also, is an appeals summary on page 135 of your agendas. And so with that, I would ask that I close this meeting.